All right, I want to bring you another shocking example of ordinary Victorians getting done over by the country's harshest restrictions in this state. This Saturday, when the Melbourne Demons play the Western Bulldogs, the AFL Grand Final will be that in Perth. Pubs in Echuca in northern Victoria will only be able to have 10 people inside the pub and 20 people only outside due to Andrew's government restrictions. At the same time, just 5 kilometres away in Moama, so just over the water on the other side of the Murray in New South Wales, venues will be allowed to host as many as 1,250 patrons. Erin Langman is the General Manager of the Echuca Workers. She's joining me in a moment. She's heartbroken at the situation for herself and her staff. Erin, I really appreciate your time. I love Echuca. It's a gorgeous bit of the world, and I could imagine, grand final weekend in ordinary times, particularly if there's good weather, people heading up your way. How is it that you can only host that small handful of people, but 5 kilometres away, it's over 1,000 patrons?
It's certainly not fair, Peter. We live this. We're living it now. Even grand final day tomorrow, it's just something that we just completely don't understand. It's just not fair at all.
How do you make ends meet if you can only have 10 patrons inside a pub, 20 outside? You've got to have staff, you've got to have the stuff for the menu. The pub beer, I suppose, is on tap. It's not going to go off as quickly as all the foodstuffs. But how do you make ends meet with that sort of restriction?
With a lot of cutbacks, we aren't opening the bistro at the moment. We are not running any chefs, just running a short cafe menu. We've got people outside. We're running on a skeleton staff as much as we can just to try and make a few dollars. It's terribly, terribly hard, and we've got an understanding bank as well, which is also a fortunate thing.
On a normal sort of grand final day weekend, what sort of money do you make? I mean, how many workers do you normally have on the staff, on the roster?
Ordinarily, we'd have 13 or 14 staff on during the day, and we would make, through the tills, thousands of dollars, and we'd be lucky to do $100 or $200 on tomorrow. That's what we're expecting anyway. That's what we're budgeting for.
Now, I think you might have had a COVID case or a COVID exposure a little while ago when there was the trouble in Shepparton, but broadly, over the last 12 months, let's say, what's the COVID situation been like in Echuca?
Very non-existent virtually. I think there might be something going on this today and locally in Shepparton. I'm not really sure, but there's been nothing in this area whatsoever, and it is frustrating. And we do know that because we're in such a tourist area, that we do have a lot of Melbourne visitors, and a lot of people come from regional Victoria as well. So, being a regional town, we would expect a lot of people in town ordinarily.
I grew up in Witchyproof, so a little bit over to the South Australian border from where you are, but as I said, I know Echuca well. Do you think the government is mindful of the issues that regional Victorian or regional communities are facing? Do you think that they're understanding in the middle of all of this pandemic that sort of the challenges you've got?
No, I certainly don't think so. Any of the clubs or venues on the Victorian side of the border would agree with me that we're border venues. We all experience the same thing. I think the government tends to focus a little bit more on the metro side of things, so the Melbournes. I don't think they quite understand what we're dealing with here. You've got, like you said, Moama, Echuca. We are one big community. We do not... or everyone shops in the local area. We don't consider ourselves separate towns. We are one big community, and all the border regions would experience the same thing. I really don't think the government understands.
Well, let's hope in coming weeks you get more restrictions, not less. I know things are going south fast in Melbourne, but let's hope they stay good for you in country Victoria. Erin Langman, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for having me.